So people are tweeting like, "Is it
Are we live
live?
yet? Are we live yet?
Is
Is the video
it?
on? Hello?
Is it
Hello?
live?" Yes.
Hello?
Sorry. Damien was being very. I was complaining about summer being out, school being out rather, and summer children running around underfoot. And Damien was being my father confessor, and I appreciate that. So, thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Always.
Yes, we didn't record that part of the thing where Scott complains about summer vacation.
The confessional before the community
Yes.
stand-up.
Oh my goodness! But I got a new mouse.
Oh, I got a new Mac.
Okay, my mouse is
The
cooler
mouse
looking.
is kind of nice. Who makes that mouse?
This is the Anker, Anker. I liked their what's it called? I like their power adapter. Remember, I got that 20,000 megavolts thing.
How much was that mouse?
It's like I don't know. It's like $30 or something. It was the #1 mouse on
Interesting.
On Amazon. It's very small. You know the Sculpt mouse, the Microsoft Sculpty one.
Oh, the Wedge mouse, you mean?
This one. So there's the Microsoft one.
Oh yeah.
It's heavy. The problem with this one, you see that right there?
It's wearing out. Yeah.
It's like this is the thing about keyboards, right? That is biomatter.
Yeah.
From me that is destroying this mouse. Like my oils and good looks have destroyed, and it's heavy. This thing is feather light, so I'm giving it a try. And you see how the angle is considerably more angled. So I'm doing that now. So we'll see if that fixes my shoulder. How are you, sir, in your new Mac? Very excited.
I'm good.
Did you buy a new Mac?
This is a new work machine. So as PM manager for ASP.NET, which is now officially cross-platform, I figured I should have a cross-platform machine to try stuff out. So when stuff sucks, I can say, hey, it sucks, and we can try.
Is it a Pro?
This is like a top-of-the-line MacBook Pro 13, 16 gig of RAM, i7. I know some ridiculous.
What is the one though there with all the stickers?
Huh?
Is that not a Mac right there, or is that a Surface?
This is my Surface Pro 3. This is my trusty.
The lower third. Sorry.
Does everything. Running this meeting right now with the fan spinning. But the Surface Pro 3, which we've talked about, on your podcast and blog posts and all, it's a wonderful, wonderful machine. And I have been setting up my Mac in the last few days and cursing and wondering how on earth anyone thinks OS X is a good operating system, because
that is a longer and unrelated stand-up.
Nothing makes sense. But now I have VS Code, and I have Office, and I have a couple of things going, like in a terminal, and I've learned that everything is different. I can code, and I've built stuff, and so it's working.
You got Parallels or VMware?
No, I'm not going to put Windows on here. I'm going to keep my Windows machine, which is my beautiful Surface Pro 3, and I will use the Mac for Mac things.
Scandalous.
I know. I like my touchscreen. I like my Pro a lot. Really a lot, and I am in no way ready to give up Windows. This is so I can become, well versed in the ways of Mac. We have our Linux servers on the desk here now. I have a Mac now. I can take this to conferences and do demos. I can try out stuff and all the rest of it.
That's much nicer than mine. You know that my old Mac.
Yeah, yours
is this 2013 era.
Look at the size of that thing.
This is my Mac that this is huge.
That is thick.
This is the Mac that I got when Silverlight for the Mac came out. And I was doing Silverlight for Mac demos.
That is a long
It is I don't know, it's very, very heavy. And it says I don't know. One day though, I know that I'll go into system update on the Mac and it'll go, no, you can go no further.
Not anymore. It was nice knowing you.
I have a Mac Mini that's like, that's it. That's all you've got. Sorry.
Yeah, so I had a Mac Mini on my desk. Which
you'll be snow leopard forever.
Yeah, but no, it's a nice machine. It's not for me. I'm glad I have my Surface Pro 3 as well.
That's all good. So, did you build something Mac-y? Is that why you have the Mac, or is that just you're just teasing us that something's happened?
No, it's just me teasing you that a little bit cross-plat is interesting, right? We've made this big cross-plat announcement, .NET Core cross-plat and DNS cross-plat, but to be brutally honest, since Build, not much has really happened since we did an announcement of Build and we showed some demos.
Is that because you have to actually do it?
Yeah, because work has to actually happen. And so you'll see, the reality is the teams involved have been working on other stuff. They've been working on that as well as other stuff. But I think we'll see in the coming months, I'm hoping we'll see some new progress in that area. So I've been using like nightly builds on Mono on here, and that works okay on Mono 401. I also used .NET Core DNX builds, which we have never pushed to NuGet. So .NET Core for Linux and for Mac is still only on our unstable feed, on the MyGet feed. Right now, you can't restore using .NET Core on Mac and Linux. You can only run. So what you have to do is, like, I have an alias set up. So I have like DNVM. I've installed latest beta 6 drop of Mono DNX and the latest beta 6 drop of .NET Core DNX, and I've aliased them like Mono and Core. So I can very easily switch to Mono, do a DNU restore, it writes out the lock file, then I can switch to Core and do DNX run, and the app runs, because we can't restore yet from .NET Core. Like, it's still that broken, right? But we're working very hard to try and get over some of those hurdles and unblock some of those things. So hopefully some of those things will unblock themselves soon. But I think in reality, Beta 7 will probably be the first release where we'll start to see that situation improve, like, at a good measure. Like, I think Beta 7, you'll actually see us make some noise about cross-platform again and say, hey, look, we fixed all this stuff from the build when we announced that build earlier this year to Beta 7. Now all this other stuff works.
Isn't that kind of a high number? 7?
Yeah. Well, Node is still 0.12, like 0.12.
That's a valid point. It is. That's an unusual number for something that's in production. At least they would call it stable, though.
They would call it stable, yeah. And we're very purposely doing more betas because we're not ready to be stable yet.
That's a very good reason.
So, yeah, I mean, so like, I'd rather us do that than try and create an RC where half the stuff still doesn't work and we have to do an RC2 and an RC3.
Yeah,
valid point. It's a good point. So on that point, like, Beta 5 will be coming out this week. We're in final sign-off right now, so I hope Beta 5, hopefully by the end of this week, will ship and people will be able to use it. Beta 6 is still slated for around July the 20th, and then Beta 7 for August 17th. But as those dates are a little further out, they're obviously a little more flexible, but that's what we're currently targeting. We don't know if there will be a Beta 8 or not yet. We're not seeing that far out just yet, but I will let people know as soon as we do know. So, what happened last week? I was in NDC last week with John.
Yeah.
In
John
Oslo.
Galloway, who is not here right now because I think he's hiking or something.
No, he's on a cruise ship in Alaska.
Cruise ship? Yeah. Well, that's effectively hiking as far as I'm concerned.
It's outside.
Just trying to think of things I would not do.
Oh, okay. That's probably a very large category. Bungee jumping may as well be hiking.
Hiking.
Yeah, it went really well. We taught a 2-day workshop on ASP.NET 5, which was good.
Anything come up? Anything break? Any like customers say, "Oh my god!"
Heaps of stuff. Amazing.
Oh yeah.
Like, the big thing was a lot of people still on Windows 7. Which
really?
Yeah.
Because more than Europe, or because that's the reality of the life?
Because that's the reality of the world. So more than half the class was on Windows 7, and we had a bunch of bugs where DNVM and other stuff didn't work on Windows 7, so you updated to PowerShell 3.
Wow.
Which we thought we'd fix, but it turned out we hadn't. They are since fixed. Since last week, they have been reported and fixed. So by the time Beta 5 ships, Windows 7 should be good. But that was, enlightening.
Enlightening in that it was like, we need to remember to make it still work on 7.
I mean, that was obviously a test gap. Like, everyone here is either running Windows 8 or Windows 10, but there's still a lot of people, like most people, running Windows 7. So that was interesting. It also highlighted just how little time 2 days is to teach an entirely new web stack.
Even though you assume that they already know MVC, or you start at MVC as a concept?
I mean, let's face it though, MVC is only 2 modules out of 12 that we cover in 2 days. Like, if you were teaching ASP.NET, the full thing, you would have handlers and modules and web.config and a whole bunch of other stuff, and then to be MVC. This wasn't MVC for 2 days. This was ASP.NET 5. So we did SPA, we did Bower, we did handler, we did a middleware, we did DI, we did unit testing, we did a whole bunch of stuff. Tooling, we did command line, we did cross-plat.
If you were teaching Node or Ruby, I know that, like, for example, if you teach Ruby from scratch,
yes,
you might have like a 3-month boot camp kind of a thing. But people take 40-hour, 1 week long courses on Here's Ruby.
Yes, exactly.
So this is really no different. I mean,
It's
web
no
programming
different.
is hard, is what this means.
Yeah, and like in 2 days, you get to like you and I have done talks in ASP.NET 5, and we sit down and go, okay, we got 60 minutes. What are we going to cover? What's our arc?
Mm,
Even when you stretch that out to 16 hours,
yeah.
we were
Yep.
like, we can't fit in everything we want to do, right?
Yep.
We had two
Fine.
modules that we didn't even get to.
Did
Like there is
people
a
like it?
yeah, people. The feedback was fantastic. People loved it. We got really good feedback. We now have some material. The labs are live. We're going to do some work to clean them up. They're on GitHub, so people can go and like follow along the labs. And we're going to add speaker notes and all
Are
that
they
type of
under
thing.
the ASP.NET place, or are they in somewhere else?
They're on John Galloway's repo at the moment.
Oh, well, okay.
But we can certainly move. We can certainly clean that up. We'll look at doing an MVA at some point as well.
Sure.
Maybe we'll do a longer one so we can get more content in, which would be nice. But no, it went well. I showed off the Raspberry Pi running Windows 10 IoT Core, running DNX for the first time during the workshop. And then the next day in my talk, I showed it off for the first time using the official public bits of that. The previous day I was using like the developer hacked up bit that he gave me on a share. The next day I installed it from MyGet. So I'm in the process of writing that up now.
Yeah, that would be great. I'd like to be able to do that too, because I've been doing it on Raspbian and it works great, but I still like to take it to Windows 10 and maybe show both.
Yes, so I am writing that up right now, including getting remote debugging from VS working. So it's a fairly extensive write-up, but I want to write it up properly before I just go and say, hey, look, it works. So, and then you can follow it, bouncing ball all the way through, and hopefully get it working, even on a web server. So like we got Web Listener, kind of works. There's a lot of bugs right now, but kind of works. So that's been good. I had a lot of fantastic feedback from NDC. We had continuously had people stopping us and saying how much they love the stand-up. So that was nice. So
really? I have such low expectations for this.
I know. It's funny, isn't it? But like,
it's fine, but
people love that we do this every week.
That's amazing.
Many people come up to us, John, and I say, guys, just want to tell you, love the stand-up, keep doing it, blah, blah,
But the numbers, the part that I don't understand is the numbers don't
I know, like we got like 2,000 views.
We're getting 2,000 to 3,000 views per episode. There's another 3 million people who aren't watching.
Apparently. But enough people watching that when I was at NDC, like dozens of people made a point to come and say, I love the stand-ups.
Okay, well, I hope that people do understand and realize that these stand-ups are being done as our lives permit. You know what I mean? Yes. Like I know that's, and like if you want to like break it down, like let's keep it real, because sometimes people are like, hey, why didn't it happen yet? You told me it'd be at 2:45, right? Today I took my kids to Minecraft camp, and then I went to physical therapy for my shoulder.
Yeah.
And that's why we started late today.
Yeah.
And other days, you weren't in the country.
Yeah.
So excuses are pretty valid excuses, but I hope that people will bear with us that sometimes they aren't necessarily on time, but they are always recorded. So rest assured, they are always on YouTube. Please.
And we try and keep it up to date on Twitter, and like we try. Like we're doing our best.
We're doing the best we can.
But people seem to like it, so that's good.
Cool.
That's good. One other thing I had was the Perf rig. I showed some of the Perf stuff in my NDC Oslo talk in the second one. I remoted it in, like I VPN'd into Redmond, I remoted into one machine, and then I puttied over to a Linux machine, and I ran like a mini perf test on stage, which was a bit of fun. Hey kids! And so that was good. But we're in the process of updating our perf rig right now, because as I think I mentioned last week, we have maxed out our gigabit Ethernet hardware. And so we're looking at updating to 10 gig Ethernet, which is kind of fun. The other thing I'm doing right now is I'm setting up Windows Server Technical Preview 2, whatever the name of it is, like the Windows 10 server on one of the servers.
I forgot all about that.
Yeah, so I'm trying that.
Funny, like I've been thinking about Azure for like 3 years now.
Yeah.
I have literally forgotten that there is a server version of Windows. Because like literally, like if I was going to start a new company,
yeah, I know,
I would run the entire thing on like Office 365 and Azure. I would never have a server machine.
Yeah. So I mean, the reason we're doing that is because IaaS and HTTP/sys get HTTP2 support in Windows 10 Server. And we've had people asking, like, have you tried HTTP2? And the real reason that's interesting is because that enables, we talked about pipelining last time and what HTTP pipelining enables you. Like you can send multiple requests in like a single TCP datagram. pipelining requires that the requests and responses are always in order. HTTP2 gives you that for free if the client and the server agree, because you can do them out of order. Like I can send you as many requests as I like, asynchronously in parallel over this one socket, and the server's free to send them back in whatever order they finish. So in theory, it's more real, like browsers actually support HTTP2, whereas no major browser supports HTTP pipelining out of the box right now. I think Opera is the only one.
Right. Basically, 2 is happening, period. So
yeah, 2 is happening. It's real. It's in Edge.
But the question is, from a programming model perspective, do ASP.NET 5 people have to think about it happening?
No, it's all done for, it's under the covers.
So when I think about minification and gzipping and the kinds of HTTP things I do think about today, will I think about HTTP2?
So HTTP2 covers a number of discrete technologies. The one I'm talking about now is connection multiplexing, which you get for free.
So it's like just like when we went. I remember when we went from HTTP 1 to 1.1.
Yeah.
Keep alive, you got for free.
Exactly. So you get that. The second one is header compression, which you'll get for free. You don't have to think about headers being compressed or not. It's just done for you by the framework or the server. And the third one, which does have API, is push promise. Now, we don't have the API in ASP.NET 5 for that yet. We haven't done the work. It is in ASP.NET 4.6. So we added a push promise API. This is the thing that lets you from the server, when you're sending down HTML, also send down the responses to requests that you know the browser is going to make, because you just sent HTML that has like a script tag that's going to force the browser to ask for some JavaScript.
Yep.
I'm a little dubious as to how much of an improvement that's going to make. I'm more interested in the HTTP2 multiplexing stuff, but push promise is part of HTTP2 as well, and that will be coming. So anyway, we're going to try HTTP2 because it's in HTTP sys in Windows 10 Server. So we'll rerun our IIS tests. We'll rerun our, including ASP.NET 5 and ASP.NET 4, and we'll rerun our ASP.NET 5 web listener self-hosting tests. And we'll do it with a load generator that can support HTTP2, and we'll see what sort of change we get, which is interesting. That was it. That was everything I had in my notes. So we've got some questions which we can answer.
Do ad blockers get way of the Google tracking?
No.
No, the number of people who view is the number of people who view. So
That's
we know
YouTube
how many
thing.
people
Yeah.
know that is the fact. For people in Belgium and in the UK complaining about the time, yes, we alternate between the afternoon Pacific and the morning Pacific. So 10 a.m., 9:30ish in the morning Pacific, while it isn't exactly working hours, it's definitely, you can either have dinner with your family or you can hang out with us. So it's about priorities, frankly.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the reality is our workday is, roughly 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. here in this time zone. We're stretching it as best we can.
Yes.
On either end of that. So
if we had Fowler-esque, hours, then we would just wake up.
He has a baby now, so even those hours have been curbed a little. So
really,
yeah, the working patterns change once you have
end of an era
in the house.
End of an era. I admire David Fowler's working hours.
Yeah, I'm not sure there's something to aspire to, but it is something to admire.
Bart wants to know about localization. How's that going?
Yeah, good. So the status is there's going to be some localization stuff in beta 5. The reality is it's going to be rolled over a number of beta releases. I think there'll be some in beta 5, there'll be some in beta 6, and there'll be some in beta 7. Beta 5 adds the middleware that sets the request culture based on headers / cookies / query string / your custom delegate that you want to use to set whatever the culture is for that request. It also adds the iString localizer abstraction and an implementation that uses Resource Manager, but frankly, they're kind of useless because we haven't done the work in the DNX yet to support actually loading embedded assemblies such that the Resource Manager implementation can even load them. We did the precursor work.
Speaking of that, I was at doing a customer visit. One of the things that I do at my job is customer visits, both virtual and physical. And the customer had built an entire plugin model, not MEF, but MEF-ish, where they had a bunch of DLLs on disk, and they assembly.load them, and that's their plugin model.
Okay.
They wanted to know in ASP.NET 5, because they heard there's no disk, there's no assemblies on disk. Do they come up with a new plugin model? Do they do things where they build to disk explicitly and then just do things as before with assembly.load?
They can continue doing what they're doing. To be clear, I mean, Razor Tag Helpers does assembly.load. That's how it works. So we have new abstractions available, new APIs available to you to do things like please load an assembly. Like previously in ASP.NET, you couldn't just do assembly.load, like it wasn't really safe. You would use Build Manager to do things like scan for assemblies, because Build Manager knew about how ASP.NET did compilation versus like a standard .NET app. Because like things in bin don't get loaded until you reference them, like there's until they're actually like you use a type, like because of JIT and a whole bunch of stuff. So Build Manager took care of that in the old ASP.NET world. We have new APIs that take care of that in the new world. But as I said, like Tag Helpers does assembly load, so you can still do things like that. Just because there's no assemblies on disk during development, we fully expect there to be assemblies on disk when you publish. If you run dnu publish -- source, you get assemblies on disk.
There you go.
Yeah, so like it's really the no assemblies on disk is a development model, not necessarily a deployment model.
Good. That's good because that's what I told them.
Good. So good. We're on message.
So I win.
you win something. So beta 6, going back to localization. Beta 6, we're doing the work. Is that beta 6? Yeah, beta 6. We're doing the work to support MVC, having first-class localization support that uses the iString localizer, that adds a view expander based on culture. So like similar, remember in MVC 5 we had like mobile views. You could do home.iphone.cshtml and it would load the iPhone view if you're on iPhone, etc., etc.
Right.
That's being generalized into a feature called view expanders, and we're implementing a localization view expander.
View expanders.
Yeah, so you could have an index.gb.cshtml, which would load, if the culture.
Right. Yeah, like index.mobile. Whatever. Yeah.
Exactly. Right. So we are building that.
We used view locator back in the day. We looked for it on disk. Yes.
So there's now a specific feature that lets you very simply like register an expander that can alter the path without you having to re-implement the whole view locator.
So I might want to do I might not want to do ENUS and EN, but I might want to have like right to left be a view expander.
Yeah, exactly. If it makes sense, right?
If it makes sense.
Lots of different ways to skin that cat, and this is just one way.
Nice.
There'll be a view-specific iString localizer. There'll be a localized string. Localized HTML string. So MVC has HTML string, which Razor understands, like it won't re-encode it on the way out. There'll be a localized version of that, so you can have a string that is both HTML and localized, so it does the correct substitution without encoding the wrong thing and all that type of stuff. And what's the last thing we do? There's one other thing that's escaping me right now. But that's going to be in beta 6. In beta 5, I don't think we've added anything specific. And then hopefully in beta 6, we'll also do the work in the DNX to actually, support having resx files that get turned into embedded assemblies that are resources that can then get loaded when your app loads and all that type of stuff. So you'll actually be able to do localization properly. What else? So when will beta 5 be released? As I said at the beginning, this week, hopefully, sometime. We're doing final sign-off right now. We've got 1 or 2 things that we're just verifying and getting fixes for, and then hopefully we'll get that all done and push the this week, if not early next week. And that's it. Is there a question down there that should I be scrolling? No, I think that's
I'm looking for questions. Oh, I think we're good.
Sweet.
Brilliant. You can hear them, can't you?
No, I can't actually.
You can't hear them screaming?
No, they're screaming at you?
Yeah. Oh, let me show you what I got. This may be one of the reasons that you can't hear them. Check this out. I just got this in the mail I got this as a gift.
Okay.
From a viewer.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Is it a mixing desk?
Yeah, it's called a PV6. And it lets me adjust us and do my mid-range and stuff. I can do multiple mics.
Yep.
Listen to my output and stuff. It's a very modest little a USB mixer.
It's funny, you say modest, that looks like, to someone who doesn't do audio stuff, that looks like a substantial piece of kit.
Yeah. So it took me about 3 or 4 days to realize that it's very powerful, like audio stuff's very powerful, but it's just a bunch of knobs.
Okay.
It's what it is? It's like each knob represents a line on the equalizer.
Yeah. Yep.
So that took me a second, and then I've got inputs and outputs based on which microphone that I decide to use.
Yeah.
And then I'm actually working on an episode of This Developer's Life.
Okay.
I finished editing it last night, and now we're just putting on the finishing touches. And I got to use this to do it. So I'm very excited about that.
It looks very similar to the thing they had in the recording booth at NDC, actually. They had one of those with 3
pro. NDC is such a well done conference. I saw
they have you heard the news, right? NDC London in January, NDC Australia second half next year.
I will. They don't think they've announced it yet, but it's 99% chance I will be at London NDC.
Awesome. Well, I will be there as well as usual.
This is like your favorite conference ever.
You can't keep me away from an NDC.
Well, then we'll go together, shall we?
Every NDC ever, all the Oslos and all the Londons.
Seriously?
Yeah, and I don't plan on.
That's going to be an expensive habit if you start going out, like, NDC Bend, Oregon.
Well, I think I'll probably have to I'll have to draw the line at like 3 a year. If I have to do more than 3 a year, I think it's going to get a little crazy.
NDC Minneapolis will have to do without you.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, they seem to be like doing one on per continent. Maybe they'll do a US one day. That would be kind of nice.
There are 44 people
watching right now.
Watching right now.
Okay, that's not no. The people are asking questions actually, so maybe I should ask. I can answer a couple more.
Last 2 questions then. Maher wants to know: is there anything new for identity in Beta 5?
Not really. There's bug fixes and stuff, and nothing majorly new.
What about identity as it relates to web services? Like if you're going to do, like, is it OAuth
token generation? You mean like an identity server?
Yeah. Because we're trying to do, we're going to have an updated nerd dinner. We're working on that now.
Yeah. So we don't have an identity server implementation right now. We're still discussing the right way about that. It may be that we don't build one, but instead we recommend you use a very good one that's in the community. So you're being attacked by ninjas right now. And so we're looking at that currently, but right now we don't have an identity server, as my understanding, that issues tokens for you. But it's absolutely a valid scenario, and it is something that we care about. We will have a solution. It's just that we haven't written one right now. So stay tuned. Someone is asking, so Matthias is asking, how can projects be referred as NuGet packages would? The idea is that the solution becomes a feed somehow. Not quite
I think the idea is this concept that one project builds and the artifact of the build is NuGet, and then that moves on to the next one. So just in the old days, bin becomes lib. Now NuGet becomes NuGet and goes down the line.
Just as you would be able to do today. If you, we used to call that dependency replication. So you have like one solution that produces a bunch of packages, and they use our dependencies of another solution. So you need to be able to reference them somehow. The standard, answer to that is still stand up a feed, a NuGet feed for yourself, and just reference them as those, and make sure you manage your feeds correctly. That's the way to do that.
Yeah, interestingly, at this place that I was visiting, they were complaining about what they were calling NuGet hell.
Yes.
And when we dug into it, though, they were finding that when they built some mid-level dependency, they had to update all of their numbers. And the reason was that they were running things exactly like before, except just replace the word DLL with NuGet.
Yes.
So they were saying, this requires that. Version 1 requires version 1. And I'm like, well, wait a second. NuGet's got all this cool stuff with square brackets, and you can say, and then like, what? Change the entire thing.
Yeah, so like,
if you use it the way it's supposed to be used, it's actually decent.
Don't treat packages like assemblies. Like, they're a lot more powerful, but you have to get used to managing feeds. Like, managing your feeds is actually it is a problem. Like, it's because it's a new problem domain. Like, if you haven't done it before, it can take a while to get your head around. I'm getting stuff from multiple places, and we don't do a fantastic job right now of letting you debug. Like,
well, in the old days, we used to have also NuGet.server, and you could just go make an empty one and stand it. But now there's maybe I want something between a folder full of NuGets.
Yes. Yeah, that's coming. So as part of NuGet v3, my understanding is being able to stand up a NuGet v3 compliant server will be a fairly straightforward process as well.
Wow, that's lovely. You heard it here.
Yep. There was one other question. How does sandboxing work now? Still app domains? No, app domains aren't in .NET Core. Sandboxing from a security point of view has always been process-based. And well, at least for the last few years, if you want to sandbox based on security, you must create another process and use the OS security model. Medium trust in .NET has been deprecated. Like, we documented that years ago, like 2.5 years ago. And at NDC this week, Barry again reiterated that in his security talk. That
you got to be nice though when you say that. You know what I mean?
What? In what way?
No, I'm not necessarily saying giving you personally feedback, but I find myself going like, "Come on, folks, we did that," and then I'll hear that they just got .NET 3 or whatever.
Yeah, but like,
it's like medium trust. people, like someone just heard that and they were like, "What?"
Yeah, partial trust has been
Our
deprecated.
entire company was based on medium trust.
Yeah. So don't rely on that. So in terms of isolation, like app domains also provide things like static value, like statics are scoped per app domain in .NET. There are no app domains in .NET Core. We have a new thing called load context, which lets you do some level of isolation. Like you can load an assembly within one load context, and then it won't be available in another. So there are some replacements, but ultimately processes are the levels, is the isolation container.
So if I were going to spin up two processes and have them talk to each other, what's the IPC mechanism? Is it pipes?
Socket?
Is it sockets? It's sockets.
Depends on the OS. Like name pipes is a Windows thing. Like the stuff that we have in VS, like DTH, right? So we've talked about this before, right? Like VS and DNX and IS Express, there's like a three-way process party that goes on. They all talk to each other with sockets. So VS spins up DNX in design time host mode, opens a socket. VS and DTH talk to each other over a socket. They send JSON back and forth.
It's so funny that what I think of as being a DCOM issue has now tiny web servers and JSON.
It's messaging, right? Now we treat it as messaging rather than RPC.
Yeah.
Which is a nice way to think about it. And then we spin up IS Express and we tell it, hey, here's a port number. When you boot, don't load anything on disk. Go to this socket and ask for assemblies, and we'll send you back raw bytes, which are the assemblies that contain the application, so you don't have to compile it a second time.
Right.
And that's how we do all that. So we're doing that already in VS. You just stand up processes, and that's the isolation model.
In closing, would you then parse what Matthias was just suggesting there?
Not as question. This would solve when you have core and core.extensions, since they live in the same solution normally. You have to publish the change to core to be able to get the latest in extensions and then make the change. Well, if they're in the same solution, they should be project references.
Right. And that's one of the challenges, though, is that like at this particular company I was talking to, the chief architect opened the .all solution.
Right.
And then
we've all been there.
Then the mini architects of the other organizations would open up their 4 or 5 project solution.
Yes.
I propose that they publish it all to a central location, a NuGet server, and I said that they should start imposing semantic versioning on their NuGets and not just update them willy-nilly.
Yeah.
And give the version number some meaning.
Some meaning. Yeah, absolutely.
You can't count on your tools to solve organizational willpower problems.
And I mean, people only have to look at the ASP.NET 5 org on GitHub to realize that we took that approach. We have 70 repos, and every NuGet package is built out of a separate repo. So MVC only builds MVC stuff. It depends on everything else in ASP.NET. They're not project references. Those are package references. If you have to debug through source, you can use the trick that we showed at Build, which is changing a package to source by cloning the other repo, adding it to the global JSON, and now it just appears as source, and you're compiling it within the scope of one solution without it actually being in the solution, forever.
Right. Cool. That was a very free-flowing and wondrous. And their next meeting is starting. We should do. Do you all guys and gals, do you like this more free-form, kind of chatting? Not that we were super formulaic before, but
go back to bullet points on slides.
Not like there was a script before. Anyway, feedback is appreciated. And if there's a way you think we can get more than 41 viewers, let us know.
Fair enough.
Ready for the dramatic zoom out?
I am ready and willing, so.
All right, go.
It paused. There we go.
There we go. Okay.
Press harder.